The untrained eye saw a perfect canopy of green. I smelled the problem first. Damp, sour earth and standing water trapped where roots should breathe. My boots sank into the lawn as I circled the oak that anchored the conservatory gardens. From the terrace, it was historic. On the ground, it was 2 tons of wood on wet footing, waiting for a gust that didn't care about donor money. "Brooks," a sharp voice called. "Tell me you're not glaring at the vegetation again." I didn't turn right away. Those heels had a cadence. Fast, precise, one beat slightly off because Zara was always carrying too much and moving too fast for her body to keep up. Zara stepped into view with a clipboard locked in both hands. 10 feet away, she looked polished. Up close, the fatigue showed, shadow, under both eyes. Concealer packed heavy near the corners. A fine crease at her mouth. She kept smoothing like she could erase it. Her fingers tapped the metal clip until it squeaked. "The ground is saturated," I said, nodding at the oak. I knelt and pressed my fingers into the soil. Water shimmered up around my knuckles. The drainage lines from the 20s collapsed. Roots are sitting in soup. One heavy storm, the soil shears and the root plate shifts. Her jaw clenched. She didn't blink, but her grip loosened a fraction and her shoulders dropped a single inch like she'd finally let herself breathe. "We have 3 weeks until the midsummer gala," she said. "Mayor, donors, press." "And Kennedy Foster," I added, because pretending she wasn't the pressure was a lie. Zara's eyes flicked toward the admin building. The tiniest flinch. Confirmation without words. "She wants the gala to be perfect," Zara said carefully, like naming a storm without inviting it closer. "No," I said. "She wants control. If the gala fails, she can blame you, replace you, and pick someone who owes her." Zara's mouth tightened. Her pen hovered, then stopped. That was the moment I understood the 3 truths that mattered. Why she was here. Because her job, her funding, and her reputation were tied to this place. What the opponent wanted. Kennedy wanted the conservatory under her thumb. Why I was involved? Because if an old oak drops a limb on a crowd, it doesn't just crush bodies, it crushes careers. "You hired me because I don't lie," I said. "I can make it pretty or I can make it safe. Right now, you don't have both." Zara stared at the trunk, swallowing once. "Fix it," she said, voice lower. "Whatever it takes. But don't tell the board we're digging unless you absolutely have to. I'll trace the blockage, and if the sky turns gray, we clear the zone. No arguments." She nodded. "I hate it when you're right." "I know," I muttered as she walked off. "That's why I'm expensive." The next few days were mud, humidity, and honest work. We cut a trench along the low side of the property, bypassing collapsed clay pipe with PVC and a relief run. Pumps roared. Wet clay fought every shovel. We set slope with a laser level so water moved where we told it to. We lined sections with gravel and fabric so the soil didn't choke itself again. The first time it rained, Lionel ran the line behind me, my foreman, my right hand, and the kind of man who solved problems without needing applause. That was when Kennedy Foster showed up. Looks like a construction site. Zara, unacceptable. Kennedy stood on the terrace in a white blazer that didn't belong near dirt. Zara stood 2 steps lower, clipboard up like a shield. "It's preventative," Zara said. "Drainage mitigation." "I don't care," Kennedy snapped. "Pre-gala mixer tonight. Cover this mess or I'm reviewing your contract renewal." Then she walked off like the property owed her an apology. Zara stayed still for one breath after Kennedy disappeared. Her posture held, then softened just an inch, only long enough for me to catch it. I wiped mud off my hands and walked over. "She threatened your contract." "She's stressed," Zara said, smoothing her skirt with a palm that trembled slightly. Her eyes slid away toward the building, like the problem would vanish if she didn't look at it. "I can cover the trench," I said. "Plywood, turf carpet. From 10 feet away it looks like lawn." Her eyes snapped to mine, not soft, relieved. "Can you really?" "Yeah." "Give me an hour." She exhaled, like pressure, leaving a valve. Her shoulders fell into their natural place. Thank you. Just coffee, I said, turning away before I stared too long. Black, no sugar. By late afternoon, heat broke into golden hour. I was testing pressure on an irrigation line near the rose garden, the hose heavy in my hands, mist glittering in the sun. The admin door opened. Zara stepped out in a red dress, simple, clean, low enough to show collarbone, not enough to be a statement. Her hair was pinned up, a few strands loose like she'd fought it and lost. She checked her reflection in the greenhouse glass, smoothed the fabric once, then saw me, boots caked, shirt dark with sweat and soil, hose in hand like a weapon. She offered a tentative smile. Do I look okay? I have a date. I took her in like I take in a job site. Details first. The tightness around her eyes, the rigid shoulders, the phone held like it might bite. You look. I searched for a word that wouldn't start a fire. Expensive. She let out a nervous laugh. Is that good? Depends who's paying. I nodded at her phone. Who's the guy? He's nice, an accountant, stable. Taking me to that new French place downtown. Boring. Her brows shot up. Excuse me? You're not a French restaurant woman, I said. You're a tequila and a dive bar woman who pretends she likes French restaurants. Her arms crossed, but the smile stayed. And what would you know? I observe things. It's my job. She rolled her eyes. I can't be late. I just wanted to make sure I don't have mud on my hem. She turned to go. The impulse hit. Reckless, unprofessional, clean as a knife. I squeezed the trigger. A fine mist erupted, arcing into a shimmering wall between her and the gate. Sunlight caught it and threw a sudden rainbow across the lawn. Zara gasped and jumped back, hand up to protect her hair. Brooks! I kept it fine, not soaking, just enough to block her path. I bet I can make you stay here, I said. You're going to ruin my dress, she said. Water dries, I answered, angling the mist higher so it cooled the air more than it touched fabric. Bad dates last forever. Her eyes narrowed. You're insane. Unnecessary, I said, and shut the water off. Silence snapped back over the garden. The only sounds were the pump in the distance and birds complaining in the trees. I stepped closer, stopping just outside her space. Her perfume cut through the wet earth, vanilla and spice. We have a problem, I said. We always have a problem, she answered. Stormfront is moving faster, I said, nodding toward the sky. Clouds were bruising at the edges, building dark on the horizon. If we don't secure the south rigging tonight, the oak sheds a limb. If that happens during the gala, someone gets hurt. And if someone gets hurt, Kennedy gets exactly what she wants. Zara's gaze sharpened. You think she'd let that happen? I think she'd use it if it did, I said. Either way, we don't give her the chance. She glanced at her phone, thumb hovering over the screen. Then she looked past me at the oak, and I watched her focus snap into place. You want me to help? She asked. I need eyes on the ground, I said. Cancel the date, order pizza, hold the light. She studied my face like she was deciding what kind of man I was. The kind who disappeared when it mattered or the kind who stayed. Then she tapped her phone. Canceled, she said. If I get mud on these heels, I'm sending you the bill. I'll carry you over the puddles, I said, and meant it. We worked until midnight. Before she came back outside, she changed like she was stepping into a different life. She reappeared with her hair pinned tighter, sleeves rolled, and a small first aid pouch tucked under one arm. She didn't make a speech. She just set it on the tailgate beside my binder and snapped it open like she'd done it 100 times. Cuts, splinters, cramps, she said. Don't argue. Yes, ma'am. She handed me a strip of athletic tape without looking up. My knuckles were raw from wet rope. She took my hand and wrapped the tape with quick, efficient turns, then pressed her thumb over the end to seal it. That's not your job, I said. It is if I'm the one who asked you to keep this place standing, she replied softly. And because I'm not going to watch you bleed on my lawn. The words could have sounded bossy. They came out protective. I glanced at the oak, then at her. You don't have to be out here. Zara slid a spare headlamp across the tailgate toward me. If I go inside, Kennedy gets to say I left you to clean up the mess alone. If I stay, she can't rewrite the story. Opposing goal, plain as daylight. Kennedy wanted control of the narrative. Zara refused to hand it over. Zara clipped the headlamp on my harness herself and checked the buckle with a firm tug. Secondary clip, she reminded me. I met her eyes. You really don't like gambling. I like controlled risk, she said, the kind you can measure. I almost smiled. She stepped back, then lifted the flashlight. Tell me where to stand, she said. 3 feet left, I said. Keep the beam on the rope and the anchor point. If you see fray or slip, you call it. Loud. Yes, sir, she said, and there was heat in the obedience, not weakness. Then she did the one thing that mattered most. She looked straight at me and gave a small nod, steady and deliberate, like a green light without words. It made my chest go tight. I turned away before I did something stupid and climbed back into the canopy. Zara clipped her hem up with binder clips, kicked off her heels, and pulled on spare rubber boots from the truck. The sight of a red dress, Wellington boots, and a high-powered flashlight under the oak was ridiculous in the best way. Lionel and my crew handled the ground. I handled the canopy. Zara handled me. Tension is good on the left line, she called. Boots planted in the wet grass, flashlight pinned to her shoulder like a tool, not a prop. Locking it off, I shouted back. Hands! Moving carabiner, anchor, torque, check secondary. I shifted my weight, tested the line, listened to the steel hum. No slack, no overtension. Just right. A gust hit. The branch swayed. My harness bit into my hips. Zara's beam tracked me instantly. You're clear on your right, she warned. Your rope's brushing the bark. Copy, I said, adjusting the line so it wouldn't scuff the cambium. When I finally rappelled down, my forearm shook. Zara stepped in close, popped a water bottle cap with a thumb, and held it up so I didn't have to fight my own hands. Then she dabbed sweat off my temple once with a clean towel. Quick, careful, like she refused to turn it into something romantic even though it felt like it. Don't look surprised, she said. I'm not, I answered. You are, she insisted, eyes bright in the work lights. Drink. I drank. Cold water hit my throat and dragged my heartbeat down a notch. She didn't step away after. She stayed close enough that I could feel her breath on my neck when she spoke. If you fall, she said quietly, I don't know what I'd do. My jaw tightened. I'm not falling. That's not an answer, she said. The flashlight beam did not wobble. Promise me you'll clip your secondary before you move. Quote. The woman who ran $1 million gala was ordering me like she ran a site. I respected it. I promise, I said, her shoulders eased. Just a little. Tree safe, I said when the last lock was set. For now, she answered. Thank you. There was dirt on her cheek. I lifted my hand and stopped an inch away. May I asked. Her breath hitched. She nodded once. I wiped the dirt away with my thumb. Warm skin. Rough thumb. The contrast felt like a confession. You should go home, I said, my voice low and rough. Before I forget, I work for you. Okay, she whispered. She didn't move for 3 seconds. Then she stepped back like she was breaking herself out of a spell and walked toward the building, boots leaving small prints in the wet grass, while the oak watched us both. The trouble arrived 2 days later in a viral post. Lionel jogged up with his phone held out like a warning. Boss, you need to see this. It was a local community page. A photo of our trench, taken from above. The caption screamed about destruction and danger at the conservatory. Comments were piling in, people tagging the mayor, people demanding the gala be canceled. Who posted it? I asked. Anonymous, Lionel said. But the angle is from the admin terrace, staff only. Across the lawn, I saw Kennedy already marching toward Zara with a tablet in her hand like a weapon. I reached them just as her voice started to rise. Donors are pulling out, Zara, Kennedy snapped. They think the venue is a death trap. It's a rumor, Zara said. Brooks secured the oak. The trench is temporary. I don't care what your handyman says. Kennedy flicked her hand in my direction without looking. I called the city safety inspector. Bill Miller. He's coming this afternoon. 1 code violation, we shut down. She walked off like she had already won. Zara stood there, vibrating. Not from fear. From anger. She can't do that, she said. She just did, I answered. Bill Miller is by the book, Zara said, rubbing her forehead. He'll see mud and cables and pull the permit just to be safe. Not if I show him math, I said. Lionel's voice went low. Boss, that post didn't come from outside. Quote. Zara's head snapped toward him. Can you prove it? Quote. Lionel nodded once. If it was sent from inside, the network remembers. Zara did not hesitate. Come with me. She got us into the IT closet in the security office like she had done it 100 times. Keys, codes, quiet authority. Lionel pulled logs from the router and firewall, matching the upload time to a static internal IP assigned to the president's office. Then he matched the device address to a tablet on the asset sheet. After that, we pulled door access logs. Kennedy's badge had entered that office at the same time. Security cameras showed the corridor. A still frame of Kennedy walking past with the tablet in her left hand. Timestamp glowing in the corner like a signature. Lionel printed everything. Network log, asset record, door log, camera still. He stapled it into a packet and slid it to Zara. She stared down at the pages, fingertips pressed so hard the paper bent. Police? She asked, voice tight. Not yet, I said. If we call now, she screams, system error, and turns it into a circus. Donors panic. The city shutters the event out of caution. We win this first with process, inspection, board, legal. Lionel nodded. And she can't erase it all now. Even if she tries, the attempts leave traces. Zara's gaze turned to steel. Okay. That afternoon, we went to meet the inspector like we were going into a fight we planned to win. Bill Miller arrived with a clipboard and an expression that looked like it enjoyed saying no. Kennedy hovered at his shoulder like she had hired him for decoration. I stepped forward before she could start her speech. Mr. Miller, I said, holding out my hand. Brooks Morales, certified master arborist. License 4920. I have the site safety plan, load calculations, and mitigation documentation ready for you. He blinked, then took my hand and the binder. We heard reports of instability, he said. Risk. I corrected, which we mitigated. I walked him through it like a job brief. Failure mode here is soil shear from saturation, I said. Saturated soil loses strength. That's why trees fail without warning. No dramatic crack, just a root plate that slides. His pen hovered. So we attacked the cause, not the symptom, I continued. Layer 1. Drainage relief. I flipped to photos and diagrams. We cut a controlled trench, installed gravel, fabric, and pipe, and routed water away from the root flare. Soil can regain structure. Layer 2. Root care, I said. Air spade to break compaction without cutting big roots. Then top dressing to help the soil breathe. Here are the soil readings before and after. Miller leaned in closer at that. Because guessing gets people hurt, I added. Layer 3. Load management. We reduced canopy to lessen wind drag. Then we installed dynamic cabling, not static. It allows movement but limits extreme swings. Anchors are through-bolted with backing plates. Cable rating and placement are documented here. Miller started asking questions, real ones, route radius, anchor placement, wind load assumptions. Evacuation paths for guests if the weather turned bad. I answered each one with numbers, photos, and plans. Lionel pulled tape measures and checked distances without being asked. At the trench, we guided Miller onto Lionel's temporary wooden bridge. Not decorative, I said, stomping once. Rated for 2,000 pounds distributed. Cross-braced. Galvanized fasteners. No loose edges. No trip points. Miller crouched, checked the bracing, tugged at a bolt. Then he stood and looked at it again like he did not want to admit he was impressed. This is solid, he said. Kennedy cleared her throat. But the optics. I'm inspecting safety, not aesthetics. Miller cut in, not even looking at her. He checked slope, barriers, signs, and our plan for moving people inside if the sky went black fast. When he finished, he looked at my binder, then at me. This is Code Plus, he said, signing the permit. Actually better than most city work I see. Event is approved." Kennedy's smile twitched and froze. She walked off, heels sharp on the stone. As soon as they were gone, Zara let out a breath that sounded like it came from the bottom of her lungs. She stepped forward without thinking and wrapped her arms around my waist. Hard. Her fingers clenched in my shirt. Her forehead pressed into my chest. Her breath came fast against the fabric like her heart was still sprinting. I locked my arms around her and lifted her just enough that she could let go of her own weight. "You did it," she whispered. "We did," I said. She pulled back after a moment, cheeks flushed, eyes too bright. "We're not done," she said, but her voice was softer now. Gala night came with fairy lights in the oak branches and jazz floating over the lawn. Zara moved through the donors in a silver gown, smiling like her life depended on it. My crew and I stayed near the service truck in clean work clothes, watching the edges, making sure everything held. "You're hiding," she said, slipping out of the crowd with 2 champagne flutes. "I'm monitoring," I said. She handed me one. "Monitor this." I took a sip. Cold, sharp bubbles cut through the smell of soil that lived under my nails no matter how much I scrubbed. "Kennedy is furious," Zara murmured, stepping closer into the shadow with me. "Everyone loves the bridge. They think it's authentic and charming." Quote, "People love anything with a velvet rope," I said. She studied my face. Then her voice changed. "About that night with the rainbow," she said. "I didn't go on the date." I set the glass on the truck bed. "No? I didn't want a French restaurant," she said. Her hand brushed my chest like she was choosing a truth. "I wanted the man who keeps the trees standing." "Be careful," I warned. "I'm tired of being careful," she said. She stepped closer, sliding into my space like it belonged to her. "You didn't tell me to quit," she said. "You protected my work." She leaned in first, breath warm on my mouth, eyes open and steady. I pulled her in and kissed her, weeks of restraint breaking into one clean, hard collision. Champagne on my tongue, her perfume in my lungs, her hands locking behind my neck like she knew exactly what she wanted. I broke the kiss before it could go further, resting my forehead against hers. Both of us were breathing hard. "They're gonna talk," I said. "Let them," she whispered. "Let them talk while we build the next bridge." Thunder answered in the distance like a warning. The storm hit 3 hours later, fast and ugly. Wind tore tablecloths free. Guests screamed and ran for the doors. Inside, I shouted to Lionel to clear the terrace. Zara was on the path, guiding older donors toward the building, arms spread like a shield. Then I heard the crack. Not the oak. The oak held. Cables sang under strain but stayed firm. The old decorative trellis on the west side broke under the wind and swung down toward the path where Zara stood. "Zara, move!" I ran and hit her around the waist, driving her off the path and onto the wet grass as the trellis slammed into the ground where she had been standing a second before. We rolled in mud. Rain punched my face. Her breath came in sharp bursts against my neck. I pushed up on my hands, gripping her shoulders. "Are you hurt?" Her eyes were wide, rain plastering her hair to her forehead. She blinked, swallowed, and shook her head. "I'm fine," she said, breathless. "I'm fine." I hauled her to her feet and kept my body between her and the fallen wood without thinking. Zara looked up at the oak, branches whipping but steady, then back at me. She laughed once, wild and honest. "The tree held," she yelled over the wind. "Brooks, the tree held." "I told you it would," I yelled back. The gala was ruined, but no one was hurt, and the venue had done its job. 2 days later, Zara called an emergency board meeting. She did it the way she did everything important. Quiet. Official. With the right forms filed at the right time. I walked into the conference room with Lionel and a thick folder under my arm. Bill Miller was already there, sitting near the end of the table as an outside safety witness. Kennedy sat close to the head of the table, posture sharp, smile thin. Zara didn't sit. She stood at the front with a calm I knew she had built piece by piece. "This meeting is about the anonymous post that tried to shut down the gala and the safety risk it created," Zara said. "Safety risk," Kennedy said. her voice dripping. Weather shut it down, not rumors. The trellis failed during evacuation, Zara answered. We will not rely on luck next time. She nodded to Lionel. He connected his laptop to the screen and pulled up the first log. Then I opened my folder and slid a packet to each board member. Every page had highlights and timestamps. No story. Just proof. Lionel went step by step. Time of the post. Firewall log showing the upload came from a static IP inside the building, assigned to the president's office. Device address matched to a tablet registered to Kennedy. Door log showing Kennedy's badge entering that office in the same window. Camera still of Kennedy in the hallway holding the tablet, timestamp glowing. Then, Zara added a stack of printed emails. These came in within 12 hours of the post, she said. Donors threatening to withdraw, claims that we were hiding danger that is real reputational damage with a real dollar amount. Bill Miller leaned forward. These logs come from the building's own systems, he said. They're standard, and they're clean. I don't see tampering. Quote, requested under safety protocol, Zara said, not gossip. Kennedy pushed back her chair and stood, hands flat on the table. My tablet could have been stolen, she said. Anyone could have used my office. This is a stretch. Lionel switched to the door log again. So someone stole your tablet, used your badge, and walked past cameras with your walk and your clothes? He asked. That's your claim? Kennedy's mouth went tight. Zara locked her gaze on her. Why? She asked quietly. Why try to sabotage the gala and threaten our funding? Kennedy's eyes flashed. Because you are reckless, she snapped. You let a contractor dig up the grounds without full board approval. I dug to keep people alive, I said, my voice low. We passed inspection. The numbers work. Bill Miller nodded once. They do. Kennedy pointed at me like a weapon. This is because you're sleeping with him. The room went very still. Zara did not look away, did not blush, did not flinch. My personal life is not on this agenda, she said. Safety and funding are. If anyone here doubts my judgment, read the inspector's report and show me where the math lies. Silence. A board member cleared his throat. Kennedy, he said slowly, is any of this inaccurate? Kennedy looked for allies and found none. No one moved. The board called a vote. Kennedy did not wait for the count. She grabbed her bag and stormed out, heels loud, mask cracking at the edges. When the door closed, the room exhaled. The tension dropped like a weight off a cable. Zara's shoulders sagged for one breath. Then she straightened, like she had trained herself to do it every time she survived a hit. Thank you, she said. She looked at Lionel first, then at me. You held the line, I said. So did you, she answered. 2 weeks later, the sun was out, and the grounds looked like they belonged in a brochure again. Fresh sod covered the old trench. The oak looked calmer. Leaves bright, soil firm, no longer slick. I was loading gear into my truck when Zara walked out in jeans and boots with a paper cup in each hand. She held one out. Black, she said, no sugar. I took it. The heat sank into my palm. The smell of coffee cut through the smell of dirt and mulch. You remembered, I said. She shrugged, but her eyes warmed. It stuck. She glanced at my boots. And I got lids that don't pop off if you step in mud, she added. I looked down at her boots. Rubber, practical. A smear of dried mud on the side like she had already tested them. You're wearing those on purpose, I said. I'm tired of pretending mud is a disaster, she said. Besides, I kind of like being the person who holds the light. Then she handed me a folder. 5-year landscape maintenance and restoration contract, she said. Went through procurement. 3 bids. Your bid won. I recused myself. Legal signed off. Bill Miller reviewed the safety scope as an outside witness. Clean and boring. Just how they like it. I set the folder on the hood and looked at her instead. You sure? I asked. It wasn't a challenge. It was a check. Zara met my eyes. Steady. Chosen. I'm sure, she said. I put the coffee down and pulled her in for a kiss. Simple. Daylight. No shadows to hide in. She went without hesitation, hands on my chest like she was planting a flag. Across the lot, Lionel pretended to be busy with the truck, which meant he was absolutely watching. Zara did not care. When we broke apart, I lifted my coffee cup. "You're going to ruin me with this," I said. She smiled. "Good." I leaned closer, my voice low. "Does this mean I have to go to French restaurants now?" "Maybe," she said, eyes bright. "But we can order pizza for the ride home." She looked down at her boots, then back up at me. "And if I get mud on my hem," she said, "I'm not blaming you." "Miracles happen," I said. Behind us, the oak cast a long shadow over the lawn, rooted and steady. "Ready